guys, and welcome into another episode of Maybe on the Crazy One podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Alex Chandler. I'm here today with Aaron, my co-host. Eric, not here again. He's dealing with a couple things, but I think we're going to get him back in the loop pretty soon. And, you know, as I'm saying this, I offered to get him spliced into some of these video edits. So he may end up showing up in the episode too. I don't know. But I want to say, first and foremost, thank you everybody who's here. Thank you for subscribing, listening, watching the show, however you're being a part of our day, and you're making us a part of yours. We thank you so much for that. If you don't mind liking, rating, subscribing, sharing, doing all the fun stuff that we ask you to do every week, just get that off, take the care of that, check mark that box for us real quick. We can get it going. Aaron, how you doing today, friend?
I'm doing great. Just got back from my niece's first softball game at home, and she had a walk-off sac fly to deep center field to win the game 11-10. So I'm super proud of her. So shout out to my niece who's a senior,
Shout out. What's her name?
McKinley.
McKinley. Shout out to McKinley. Great work being a clutch performer for your team this week. We don't have any special. We're not the Kelsey brothers here. We don't have any, new height, reaching new heights moments or anything like that. But shout out to you, McKinley. Great work. First Aaron shout out on the show, by the way.
Yep.
We've had some Chris shout out Chris, by the way, get that out of the way too. Shout out John as well. He gets a shout out, but whoever starts to interact with us the same way as well, you'll get more shout outs too. So keep on bringing it in, keep on going. I actually told myself, I kind of gave myself the same process this year that I gave us for the playoffs last year, where if the Eagles won a game, I was buying a shirt. I know we did it for the Thunder specifically on the show. We talked about doing it for the Eagles, but they didn't win a game. But here we go. New shirt right here. Since we beat the Packers, which we'll get to here in a little bit, 34-29. But we're going to start out with our quick slants, which are going to be some quick stories that went over this weekend. Try to get just like in football with a quick slant, 3 yards in and out, you're trying to get, as many yards as you can, as quick as you can. That's what we're doing here. So we're going to start with probably one of the bigger news stories of the week, same way that we did last week. Tyreek Hill, on the way to the game Sunday morning, was detained by Miami-Dade police officers. We have now seen body cam footage. If you haven't seen that, you should go take a look at that. This might be something that we also share in conjunction with this video, but it's just a matter of what rights we have to do that. But either way, I wanted to go ahead and discuss it with you, Aaron. What were your first thoughts? Because I know you watched the body cam footage.
Like my first thoughts, like prior to seeing like the body cam footage, was like, okay, like obviously, like I read the reports prior to the game happening that he got detained, and I'm like where and how, like what was he doing? Because like there was like no, I don't think it even said like he was speeding or doing this. It just said that he was detained, not what for, not for how long. And I'm just like, okay. And like as we know, like Tyreek's had some stuff in the past, so that you do kind of have to take that into account. But we also have to take into account that not every police officer does their job correctly. Just like people in other professions, they don't follow their job to the T. They don't do their job right all the time. So this isn't me necessarily taking a shot at police officers. Notice I said everyone. I said not everyone does their job correctly. And after watching the body cam footage, I can confidently say that that was not done correctly whatsoever.
I would agree. I think there's a lot of things there between, we had offline conversations about this, obviously in text messages as it's happening, as we're watching these things. And one of the things that I really was brought to my attention as a part of all of this was, they stated he was not complying with what he was asking to do. How did you open his door?
Exactly.
His car, like he has a Lamborghini, his car is on it. That door is not unlocked. How did you open his door if he wasn't complying? Oh, he was complying? Okay.
Well,
And
they're
also,
gonna say he didn't because he didn't roll down his window.
right, but also you were starting to walk away. And like you didn't need to be in that interaction. The cops in the video say that's Tyreek Hill, so clearly they know who Tyreek Hill is. And and they also had his ID, so you can see these things. He told them he was going to the game because he was playing in the game. Like, there was many things that they had the opportunity to handle that better. And just like Tyreek said, what if it wasn't Tyreek Hill?
Mm-hmm.
What if it was somebody else? What if it, was, him, and it was Calais Campbell. I think I said Jonnu Smith when we were texting about it. I think it was Calais
Mm-hmm.
Campbell that actually stopped. And they then detained Calais Campbell as well for
Did they actually end up detaining him or no?
I
Because
so
I
the dude tried to, at least.
right,
And so
which
that's where the video cut off, but
so quick fact check for you guys when it comes to detaining someone. Unless you commit a crime, they cannot ask you for your ID, which they asked for his ID when he stopped in front of it, and they said he was blocking the street. He was not blocking the street. He was pulled off to the side. Maybe the tail end. I'll give you that. Okay, whatever, but still not a crime. You cannot legally ask someone for an ID when they have not committed or been suspected of committing a crime, in which he did not. He literally just stopped because of what was happening.
mhm.
And I'm pretty like, I know every state's different. I looked up the state law. You cannot ask for an ID,
No.
and he did not have to give his ID. And so that police officer that also detained and was like the same way with Tyreek was the same way with him. And then when the other police officer, I don't remember his name, told him that he could go, that same police officer said, "Well, no, you're dealing with me now, and you're going to give me an ID." No, that's not how the law works.
Nope.
So,
And to be fair, and let's just call it, be candid about it, that officer is currently suspended. Tyreek Hill is called for his job. And I think that's, at this point, it's probably rightful to request that because of how he was handled. Now, is that the right answer? I'm on the fence about that. I believe that people can be trained. I believe people can be retaught and, to learn, especially when you've been publicly lambasted like he has been in this situation.
mm,
You're probably going to be a lot better at your job moving forward. Anybody in that situation more than likely would be. I think it's going to be something that they absolutely need to look deeper into, though, and to take care of that on a more systemic level, just like we've talked about on this show as well before, year after year after year after year. And the only time that it really is brought to the light is when somebody is murdered or when it's a celebrity like it is now. And
mm-hmm.
so, we just got to be better as well at making sure that we're policing our own police force effectively and, adequately. So, do you have anything else to say on that?
Yeah, yeah. So like, just to like kind of get into like this like particular police officer, and I've seen like just like videos of other like when people talk to them a certain way, they get in their feelings. But again, like I understand like people want to talk about like morals and like just talk with people with respect, which I can get behind, but it's still not the law. Because like
Right.
people and everything else want to talk about the law and what's what's within your rights. And like Tyreek could have cussed him out, flipped him off, and whatever, and that's still not against the law.
That part maybe goes a little too far, but
Well,
you're
I'm
you're
not
you're
saying
on the right track.
I'm not
Like,
saying it doesn't go too far, but like in terms of like obviously like that escalates thing. But again, like
right,
as far as like just saying whatever from the inside of your car,
is not
like
illegal. No,
in a legality sense, like obviously like you don't want to make things worse, obviously.
it doesn't help
um
the situation in any
like
capacity. Right.
like I understand like his frustrations and like why he was probably upset. So like I'm not like excusing with necessarily like how he like spoke to them, but like
Hmm.
also like you don't he also said don't touch my window like that, and then the guy took it
Which,
upon.
which, to be fair, that window probably is more expensive than that man's entire year salary. It's
Correct.
it's a Lamborghini's window. Like, it's not a cheap piece of glass.
Right. So like, I can see like both bits of it, because obviously like I'm big behind, treat how you want to be treated, but again, people are going to live how they want to live. If someone wants to talk to you a certain way, that's unfortunately within your rights to do so. So,
Absolutely. And that was a point that I saw somebody make online as well. They were previously they had just retired, and for 20 years they had been a police officer chief. And you can get into that's politics. That's not a earned position, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. At the end of the day, they were good enough they raised themselves high enough to a level of stature that they were in charge of other police officers, which means in some capacity they have to be the ones that are responsible for those decisions that are being made. And even he was like, yeah, it's not you can be as rude as you want. It doesn't help the situation. It may escalate the situation like we just said. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with what Tyreek did. Maybe, also he was like the police officer could have explained why he needed the window rolled down instead of just being an asshole about it.
Correct.
He could have, there's a lot of different situations that could have occurred there. When he was opening the door, he was supposed to be provided a reasonable amount of time to be able to get out of his vehicle, and he was not afforded that. And so again, a lot of different things before even the cuffing occurred that were
Dragging him out of his
incorrect.
car.
Right. Like there was so many different things before that part even happened that they could have de-escalated the situation. But, as a civil servant, which is what a police officer is effectively supposed to be, you're supposed to be the one that's de-escalating the situation. You're the one that's supposed to have that training to be able to sit there and have that, psychological conversation with somebody and say, "Hey, I recognize that this is not an ideal moment for you. I'm just doing my job, and you need to be the one that's in control and calm, even if the person is rude." And so I absolutely 100% agree with you, and what comes from it is what comes from it. I just don't know what the right answer is.
Right. And for like most police officers in that situation will be like, hey, like from like I obviously can't see into your car. Like I understand like legally too, all you have to do is crack the window to where they can hear you. Technically, I don't know about that necessarily in Florida law, but I know a lot of states it just has to be cracked. I don't know, like a lot of it also depends on tent too. So that part I did not look into,
His
but
tent was real deep too, so like
right.
that's
But like
yeah.
again, most police officers in that scenario, which obviously this one did not, will be like, hey, just like for my safety and for your safety, can you just keep your window rolled down?
Exactly.
And again, if it's the law there, obviously he can refuse his right to do so if he does not have to like legally keep his window rolled down.
Mhm.
But like again, like you didn't give yourself that opportunity because you never asked.
Right. And I will say one thing to the people that are, coming at this as just, what do they say? Just comply, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It, I'm not going into what he got stopped for. I don't, honestly, that does not matter to me what he got stopped for because, that doesn't, nothing inside of the law stipulates if you're getting stopped at a traffic incident, you have to be pulled out of your car and thrown to the ground. That's there's zero laws on that. You know what I mean? Like that's not a requirement by law enforcement. They're supposed to actually use the least amount of force as possible to protect themselves and to protect the individuals they're serving. So fair.
Fair.
All right. Well, let's move on to the football field now, where I guess to say, leaving the field, we should, say, because we're going to talk
True.
about Shadur Sanders in Colorado. And we don't give a lot of lifeblood to the college football game here. We're going to give it to this week. I'm a big fan of Dion at Colorado. I have said that Dion being at Colorado has provided them many, many multitudes of things that another coach coming in wouldn't have. Between the marketing that he, that clearly he has provided to them. I saw a stat that on game days in Denver, or sorry, in Boulder, it provides like $5 to $11 million in additional revenue than what they were
Huge.
previously getting, which is huge, absolutely huge. That goes past like NIL programs and anything like that. That's money going directly into the school to re-benefit the school. Additionally, I saw something as well where they are giving the children of their players free like college funds effectively. I forgot the exact plan that they're getting, but effectively they're each getting money. I think it was like $2,500 to start a college fund for each of their children that like the
Mm-hmm.
players have. And that's just coming out of his budget, their budget, whatever you want to look like. He's partnered with another company to be able to provide those things. So he's helping the students of his community. He's helping the community itself. He's helping the school. I don't really give a shit about the performance on the field at that point from Dion. Now, Shador, different conversation. he really, while he is the main focal point of what their offense is, the reason that Dion is there, clearly, him and Travis Hunter for that matter, he's not really living up to the expectations of the leader that I thought he could have been moving into the year. Whether it was last week against North Dakota State, they could have easily iced the game away, and instead he was trying to throw the ball, and he claims it was to get somebody more yards. It wasn't. Because if that were going to do that, then they could have gotten Jimmy Horn 4 more yards so that he could have had 200.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be the more focal point, I think, of getting players yards, not the fifth wide receiver on the team that you're not going to play with next year. No
Right.
disrespect to that guy, but like that's not what he's there for. And then this week they were getting blown out by Nebraska. And granted, it was in Lincoln, so that's going to be a hard game for them to win anyway. Nebraska's a pretty good team with baby Mahomes. Matt Rule doing his college thing. Clearly not a good NFL coach, but an excellent college coach. And so, and he just leaves the field. I think it was like 2 minutes left in the game. He was no longer on the sideline. Backup quarterback goes in. They did it under the guise of an injury, but then also after the game, Dion said he's gonna be ready to play. And so I think it's personally hurting this draft stock quite a bit. And so while he's currently the odds-on favorite to be the number one pick in the draft this year, still I think it's at like plus 235 or 435, one of those two numbers. I personally think it's going to be Quinn Ewers at this point, the way he's playing and the way that I
Mm-hmm.
expect that team to play. And we'll get to Texas here in a minute. But what are your thoughts? Do you think he needs a big game this week against Colorado State to advance, his stature or get back to where he was? Do you think he's fine? What do you think?
Oh, he 100% needs to, just because, and it's not even just from the 2 games this season alone, it's from the products last season. Like, I
Yeah.
understand that they, like, last season, when you say, like, in reference to last season, that the season before they were what, a 1-win team, right? Or 2-win team?
They were a
I think a
one-win
1-win team.
team before Dion got there, and they went 4-8 last year, so a 3-game improvement.
Right. And like, obviously, like, they lost some close games last year that they easily could have won.
Mm-hmm.
But you would think at that point you would also like take those steps forward. And I know that's not obviously all on him either.
Right.
Like, a lot of those were like shootouts, basically, where your defense has to do something. So I'm not going to say I'm going to put it all on Shador's shoulders, but like, as you alluded to,
Right.
in terms of like the leadership too, like, injury or not, just like the leadership seems to be kind of lacking
Mm-hmm.
and within the team. And like, I feel like, especially against Colorado State, if you're in state rival, like, if there's a time to put up or shut up, regardless of how good that team is or isn't, like, the time would be now to do
Right.
so, and to be like, hey, like, you know, yeah, I may have had, you know, not great performance last week. Let me snap back into it.
Yeah. I think I so it's hard for me because I think where we are with Shador at this point is we know the talent is there. We know
Mm-hmm.
what he provides on the field and what he can do. The problem is him, like in his ego, what he is providing as, so for example, it was an untrue story, but we talked about it today where they said that Dion had asked the
Colorado
band
band.
to not play the fight song so that they could play Shador's rap song after he scores touchdowns. And Dion came out and quickly said that wasn't true, or at least a school
The school
spokesperson
the
did.
school did, yeah.
Right. And said that's not true. They still played it. I went back and looked. They did play it right after he scored against North Dakota State. Clearly there was nothing to play this week as well. So unless it happened in between week 1 and week 3 now, then whatever. But it still hasn't actually occurred. But still, like I think his stature or at least status in the draft could be benefited if he takes 6 sacks in this game and after the game he says I have to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Not, it doesn't blame the offensive line, right?
Take
Whether they win or
accountability.
lose, right? and be the leader of a football team. For example, Caleb Williams this week won a game, right? And we'll get to the Bears, way later in the show, but they won a game where he threw for 93 passing yards. And after the game, he said, "I have to be better. I'm glad that we got the win, but I wasn't good enough." And, that's ownership. That's accountability for all the things that we feel about, these quarterbacks, these young kids that are going to make mistakes. I understand that. You got to be better than this, especially when your dad is who he is, especially coming from where you are and the things that you want to be. But I saw a video with him and Cam Ward in the offseason where he's talking about how he's going to get better today and get better tomorrow and get better this and get better that. And Cam Ward's like, "But you didn't get better from last year. So how are you doing that?" And he was like, "But I'm still going to do it." Bro, take accountability. Recognize you aren't God's gift to this earth. You're just another dude playing quarterback. And you're lucky enough to have the abilities that you have. Take advantage of it because he's a smart kid. You can tell he's smart, but he's not being smart on the field when it comes to leadership. And that's going to be the one thing that NFL teams look at. They say, I'm going to go with Quinn Ewers. I'm gonna go with a Cam Ward, higher upside, lower downside, or higher downside, higher upside though potentially, because I think Cam Ward's gonna be a stud potentially in the NFL the same way that Anthony Richardson has been. And Anthony Richardson made some plays this weekend, but he again, when you look at his stats, he was like 9 for 19 or something like that, 9 for 24. But he threw for 260 yards. So you can be great and have poor individual numbers. You can also be excellent and lose. Matt Stafford. So, it's hit or miss, but right now I wouldn't say he's a first round quality player just because I don't know if his leadership is something that my locker room's going to get around. Now, Travis Hunter, on the other hand, is a stud. All around individual. You can tell that man puts in more work than anybody on that team. And so, I'll never say a bad word about Travis Hunter. I think he should be the number one pick in this year's draft right now, based upon what we've seen. And I also think he should be a Heisman candidate. But that's just me. So, do you have anything else to say on Shedeur?
Nope.
All right.
Just
well,
as the great coach Drinkwitz says, you just need to stand on business.
the great coach who?
Drinkwitz.
Eli Drinkwitz?
Yeah.
We're calling him a great coach now? With his 0 conference titles and 0 playoff appearances and, one conference championship game?
They were in the playoffs last year. Well, you're talking about like college football playoffs, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What college football playoff was Missouri in last year? Please remind me.
I was thinking of bowl as a playoff, not the actual playoffs.
Game. Now, I do say if Shedeur doesn't make a bowl game, that's probably an indictment on him. You don't have to win 8, 9 games to be an excellent quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is a perfect example of that. They were, a 6, 7 win team every single year of his career at Texas Tech. And, now he's a 3-time Super Bowl champion, and soon to be 3-time MVP, if I'm right. So, but we'll get to who I said was going to be potentially the number 1 pick in the draft, and that was Quinn Ewers. Man made the right decision coming back, it seems. And I thought it was the wrong decision. I said, go, I've seen too many players come back to school and their draft stock not get better. Quinn Ewers is a clear exception to that situation. They went into the big house and absolutely ran roughshod on Michigan. I think what was the final score? Like 28-10, 38-10?
I think 38-10.
It
was not close.
No, and that's not even that's a closer game saying those words out loud than it actually was too. It was a very, very dominant performance by Quinn Ewers and the Longhorns. And so I want to know, because also when we look at things, the Big Ten, the ACC really didn't perform well against other Power 5 conferences over the last couple of weeks. That game was 31-12. Yep. And so, and I think that he scored a touchdown with 3 minutes left too. So it wasn't even, again, that close.
Right.
But Texas has clearly overmatched anybody in the Big Ten, clearly. K-State's really lucky they're not in the Big 12 anymore because they would completely shell shock them. USC was the one bright spot, I think, for the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon struggled against both Boise State and Idaho. The SEC seems to be pretty strong, but I want to know what you think. Who's the best college football conference?
It's SEC. It's not close.
Okay. That I agree with you. It's the SEC. I disagree that it's not close.
Like in terms of top talent, like top teams,
Yep.
like
I'm talking about the whole conference, buddy. 1 to 16, both conferences that I'm thinking of.
well, Michigan also did not beat Fresno State by much. So
Oh, you think I'm going with the Big Ten, sir? No, I don't
no,
think Big Ten is the
no,
second best.
I'm just like talking about other games that like teams have struggled, like Michigan, like
Oh yeah,
they don't have a quarterback.
yeah. They also didn't have a coach for a couple of
That's
those games.
that's
Sherrod Moore
true.
has not been there. He just signed his contract actually yesterday. But I think the Big 12 is really a lot closer than people give them credit for to the SEC. And you can look at the top where it's Baylor, K-State, Iowa State can be put in there right now. Arizona is a good team, right? I think those guys, while they're not necessarily Bama, Georgia, who would you put in the third in the SEC right now? Texas.
Technically, Mizzou is they're ranked sixth in the nation right now.
Yeah, they're not that good though. I don't care about what their record is. What they're the sixth team in the country because they started as the 10th team in the country or whatever it was. It has nothing to do with what their performance actually was in their first two games, right? Oklahoma State, that's another team I forgot about. They
Oh
played a
yeah,
pretty good game against Arkansas this week. Actually beat an SEC school, but I think K State, Iowa State, Kansas to some degree,
Ole Miss.
Arizona. Ole Miss is fine. I'll put them at 5 in the SEC. I think again, I said the SEC is the best school, the best, but I think Ole Miss is start where
Right.
you
Well, when
start to
you're,
see.
I'm talking about like when you're asking about like your top three.
Oh, I mean, my top three would be Georgia, Alabama, Texas. That's
Oh
my
yeah,
clear top three. And I would probably honestly do that Georgia, Texas, Alabama right now, even though I'm a huge Kalen DeBoer fan. Uh, But what I'm saying is, I think that next level, that Oklahoma, Missouri, Ole Miss, Auburn,
LSU is the next one.
LSU.
Auburn's not ranked.
Okay, LSU. Then are they still ranked?
Yep, they're
Oh,
17.
okay.
16, sorry, 16.
Okay. So all of those teams, I think, are the same level as the top 4 or 5, 6 teams in the Big 12. I think the Big 12 is very good across the thing, or not the thing,
Mm-hmm.
the conference. But I think the very bottom of the Big 12 is a little rough. I think the top 6 or 7 in the Big 12 are better than A&M. I think they're better than LSU, Arkansas clearly because that just happened this week. Mississippi State, Florida, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Kentucky.
Florida's
That's
bad this year.
I understand, but that's 8 schools that I just named that I would take the top 14 probably schools in the SEC or the Big 12 for. So like yes, the SEC is the best program because they have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 6 with Ole Miss, whatever, you know what I mean? They have the top end talent, but they get really thin at the bottom, which also I think lends to the top of the conference being really good.
They have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Tennessee. We forgot about Tennessee.
Tennessee's fine.
Well, I know. I'm just talking about like in terms of rankings. Like
Yeah.
they have,
I I'd put Tennessee on that same level as the rest of the top of the Big 12 though. Is
yeah.
like they're that second tier of team. I'll give you Ole Miss because I do like Lane Kiffin. I like what he's done there. I think he's actually learned how to grow a program, be a true adult, be a true coach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like that for Lane Kiffin. Uh but yeah, I would say that the Big 12 is the second best program because outside of Ohio State, Michigan State, or not Michigan State, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and USC now, Oregon. Like I two of those schools, I'm not really
Yeah.
concerned about. So
LSU's loss was to USC week one, 27-20, by the way.
Right. That was their
which
loss.
I
And
don't think USC was USC ranked to start the season or no?
yes, they basically flipped spots in their rankings. So it was 14 to 24, and then they flipped to be like 21 and 12 or whatever, wherever USC is now minus one spot.
USC's 11.
Okay, so they were 12th. Yeah, they went from four. They went to 14th. Sorry, they went up to 10 spots that jump,
Gotcha.
and then they dropped down like 7 spots. And then they played a really good game this week as well against Utah State. Beat the
Mm-hmm.
beat the beat the brakes off of them. I will say the best quarterbacking is in the SEC.
Yeah.
They have the best quarterbacks. They're going to have the best quarterbacks again because they have the top five. To take college football reference terms, 5-star programs, right? There's not very many 5-star programs in the Big 12, but even Arizona State's going to be an 8-win school this year. Colorado's going to be the school that has like the 5-6 wins, and they're still going to be what 10th or 11th in the Big 12. And I think I would take them over Arkansas any day right now. Mississippi
Don't
State over them any
don't
day.
don't tell Laura that.
Oh, she a woo pig?
She is a woo pig.
Oh man. Okay, Laura, don't listen to this episode. So, I have nothing else to go over with quick slants. What do you have anything else?
Nope.
All right, so we're going to get to a new segment this week, guys. This is going to be called Out of Bounds. And it's going to be every week we clearly give you guys takes here. Some of them are great. I always like to go back to my Donovan Mitchell to the Cavs take a month before it happened. Some of them are completely wrong. And, this is kind of where we're going to sit and talk about those ones that we're completely wrong with. It could be something that was from the sports world. We could have given a take that was non-sports world takes and then been wrong about that as well. It's basically us fact checking ourselves. And so, with that being said, I'm going to start and I'm going to admit something to you. I still have faith because I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach and I think he's going to make the right decisions here. But I might have been wrong that the Cleveland Browns can survive Deshaun Watson being the worst quarterback in the league and still win the division. It's hard.
You said that they were going to. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Mhm.
You said that they were going to win the division with Jameis Winston anyway. So
That's fair, but
not Deshaun.
But right, but I was thinking he was going to get injured. I'm saying if he's like at one point, I think last week too, I said that they could win even if it wasn't Jameis because of how good their defense was, and I didn't think that Deshaun could be that bad. But like on the broadcast, I'm not sure if you watched the game with the broadcast or you watched a replay, whatever it was. Tom Brady, before Deshaun Watson's first pick, was like, you got to figure out where Micah Parsons is. He's right here, and circled him on the screen. And then he immediately threw it to Micah Parsons, and he batted it up, and it was picked off by Eric Kendricks, new Dallas Cowboy, by the way, which was a decent signing for them. It's one that we underlooked, I think, or at least I underlooked. The other thing that came out recently, I don't know if you saw this today. There is potentially a burner account that Deshaun Watson has.
I did. I forgot what I read what the name was, but yes, I did see that as well today.
Yeah, and it's this guy. I don't remember what the name is. I think it's like LeGarrette Boykin or something like that. But basically he was talking about needing a left tackle, needing help, receivers catching. He's not a bad quarterback. If he had the time that other quarterbacks had, he would be better.
He's a great teammate.
He's a great teammate. Like, and to be fair, Jerome Ford did come out and say, like, we saw like him bleeding, so like, and he was still out there fighting, playing for us. So it is. Deshaun Watson doesn't look like he wants to play football, man. Like, really, honestly,
he got his money. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he really looks like he's just done. And I don't know if it's because he truly doesn't love the game anymore. I don't know if it's because he got his money. I don't know if it's, all of the negative attention. Yeah, all of the negative attention, whether it was, the 24 cases or the most recent one, he just seems drained of all enthusiasm. There's been a couple shows when we were, audio only that I was like, yeah, we got no energy here. We gotta cut these episodes. We're not gonna do them, right? And he has that every week. It's so
Sure.
I I was
Just completely just stoic face.
stoic, and he's like, I have to be better, and then comes out and isn't anywhere remotely near what better would be. There's just a lot of questions and concerns there that I have for him.
Like
And it's
I'd rather you see just be like ungodly angry than just nothing.
show me something. You're
Some kind of emotion.
you're the quarterback of my team. I need you to show me something. And he doesn't do that. And there was also a video of Joe Batonio, their center, after he recovered his fumble. Deshaun Watson went to go try to help him up, and he refused to help. He refused Deshaun Watson's help and got up himself. Like, that doesn't tell me he's a good teammate. There's a lot of questions that I have again. So I think because it's impossible for them to cut him. I don't know if you knew this or not. Like, this year, if they were to cut him after this year, they still owe him $177 million, as that would be a dead cap hit, which Russ's is the biggest one now, like an 87 or whatever it was for you guys. Uh, and then if they cut him after next season, so basically 18 months from now, it's still $96 million. And they didn't have to do that. They decided to restructure his contract. If you remember, we talked about this earlier a couple weeks ago, out of nowhere, to give them money for cap that they're not going to use this year, that they're then going to roll over to next year. They could have gotten out of this deal next year for like $84 million if they hadn't rolled it over. And instead, they rolled $40 million over, pushed signing bonuses back further and further. They're screwed. I was almost going to use our first one of the episode, but I didn't. Anybody who follows us knows what that is.
They're effed.
Yeah, they're effed.
That's
man.
Not one.
I'm trying to find a way to do
Still
a
zero.
counter for everybody, just so you know, so we can have a counter like up in the
Have
corner.
a ding.
Here. Yeah.
We need an audio cue too.
I could do a ding. The problem is doing the getting the on the screen.
Number.
Yeah, so I'm working on that. If anybody has some tricks for that, please send me your tricks in the comments as well. So, but that's my out of bounds take, is that I don't know if Cleveland can do it with Deshaun Watson, but again, I have trust in Kevin Stefanski. He's going to go to Jameis Winston at some point in time. They're going to win, 6, 7, 8 games in a row, because Jameis, unlike Deshaun Watson at this point, is a real NFL quarterback. So, what's your out of bounds take, Aaron?
So, obviously, like coming in, like with when we talked about like teams to watch and like who we expect to do well and player awards and coaching awards, I expected the Falcons to kind of be a lot better than what they were.
Mm-hmm.
And they were not even close. That they weren't even half of what I thought they would be. And like I get it, like we were both hesitant when we were talking about both Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins at the age and coming back from an Achilles. Mm-hmm. So like I expected there to be like some growing pains for sure, but like I still thought that he would have been good enough to get the job done, and it was horrible.
He seems scared. Honestly, like watching the film, reviewing the film, he seems scared. And the fact that you lose to a team that, didn't have a touchdown, scored 6 field goals.
Yeah, can't score.
Yeah, you couldn't run the ball, to save their life. Now, Justin Fields was efficient. He didn't fumble the ball, which is, a staple for him. And so good job, Justin Fields not doing that. But yeah, they were pretty rough around the edges. Now, Raheem Morris's defense does seem to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of those takes that I did have. I thought their defense was going to be much more improved. They got Justin Simmons, your guy, obviously. They got Jesse Bates as well, AJ Terrell. Their front is the part that they kind of need a little bit more help with, a little bit more structure there, and they're working on that with Grady Jarrett, at least in the middle there, so they can, stop some running plays, which is what they were, successful with against the Steelers. But is it time to be on Penix watch?
I don't think it's time yet. Like I said, it's week 1. I'm going to give him a little bit of grace and time to kind of get into it. And then on the flip side, like if you are wanting to go to Penix, like obviously they kind of don't want to because they gave Kirk all of this money, mm-hmm. but that also gives him a few more games to learn, a few more games to get like practices and like workouts and stuff, mm-hmm. but like mainly like experiences to learn. So where like I don't think you definitely don't need to rush him in, especially like if you don't think that this is a year that you're going to do stuff, even though like with the moves that they made, you would think that that's kind of what they're going for. Like, hey, our conference is pretty weak. All that, well, allegedly, like what I know we're gonna talk about two of the other teams' performances later, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like they have historically been a very weak conference. Um, and they're like, we got these pieces, like we could easily win this division, and then they can't beat a team who can't score touchdowns.
Yeah. It's going to be
So,
interesting to see what they do against the Eagles this week because obviously that defense, and we'll get to it here in a bit, wasn't super great against Jordan Love, but they also potentially have six first, number one wide receivers is what I like to hear from people. So, whether
but
it's
yeah, so that was my bad take. Like I said, I did expect there to be like some slowage, but not to the extent to where you were going to score the amount in which you scored.
that's fair. So, all right. I don't know what Eric's take was. We'll get that from him next time. And I forgot to ask him about that when we were doing our pre-show stuff to get Eric's information. I do have his picks for later in the show, so that's good. But we'll have to get his out of bounds segment next week. I imagine it has something to do um with the Cardinals. To be to be completely honest with you, actually, it probably has to do with the Titans because remember he had the Titans going 0-17 and they
Uh,
looked not terrible. Will Levis looked terrible, but
well,
their
he
defense looked
looked.
pretty good.
Yeah, well, it was primarily like they just blew it. Like I wouldn't necessarily say the whole second half, but the whole fourth quarter for
Did
sure.
you did you hear what Brian Callahan, their head coach, said after the game?
I remember hearing about it, but not verbatim what he said.
He said it would have been almost better if they punted on first down
Oh,
and
yep,
played defense every
yep,
possession.
yep. I
First
did see
off,
that.
Brian Callahan, way to like completely out your quarterback after one game, bro. It's your job to develop him, not to destroy him. And two, that would not help your defense. They needed the time that Will Levis gave them to to at least rest and take a break.
But yeah, basically second half meltdown. They allowed 21 points, 14 in the fourth quarter.
It's not even their defense didn't allow 21 points.
Oh,
Their
I know.
defense allowed what was it? It was like 7 points.
Yeah,
And
the last touchdown they had was a pick six, obviously. Like
yeah,
I'm
the
not
pick six.
I'm not putting it on the defense. I'm just saying like the team itself had a well, when I say the team, like obviously like
It,
I
it,
understand that also encompasses the defense, but like the offense has to be able to do something. So like obviously the defense gets tired and like so there's going to be some things there.
oh
But
yeah.
like but yes, like obviously I'm putting most of that stock in the offense, but the team at least collectively had a meltdown in terms of the second half compared to the first half.
Right. And again, I don't even know if it was the team that had the meltdown because the first touchdown was a fumble recovery for a touchdown. Second touchdown was a punt return. Third return was was a pick six. They had zero offensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
It was 100% just Will Levis destroying himself. But after one game where you win against potentially what I think is going to be a top five defense in the league this year, you you can't just out your quarterback like that. So,
No.
but all right. So then we're going to move on to another new staple of the show that we're going to do. This is called Chandler's Charts. And as you guys don't know, like I said, my name's Alex Chandler. Therefore, these are my charts. So weekly, my co-hosts are going to give me categories to make top tens. They're your charts, huh? Okay. Whatever you say, buddy. And so, Aaron, I asked you before the show, but I want you to go ahead and tell us what is our chart going to be about this week?
So the chart that I gave Alex for this week, I gave him two options, and the option that he chose was to pick the 10 top performances of the week for good or for bad.
Well, I mean, the top performances, there's only good.
Well,
You can't have top bad
sorry.
performances. It's the top or the worst, but I did the top either way. And
Well,
then
I mean, if you call it like you can call it top 10 bad performances, like,
you're right. I just don't like the term.
well, right.
Top 10 worst
But
performances.
yes, like, okay, performances either good or bad, and you make a grouping selection of 10.
Well, I made a selection of 10 here. and they're right here, just so everybody can see. I'm looking at notes again. I think it's important that you don't think I'm just looking down at stuff. But so I gave you a 10 here, and I went with most impressive, just because some of it's not necessarily excellent performances, the highest performances by players, but I think based upon grading of difficulty, the situations that they were dealt with, the situations that we foresaw or we got, this is the results that we got. So number 10 was probably the hardest one that I got. Honorable mentions. How about this? I'll start with the honorable mention real quick. Was the Chargers offensive line. And for as much as I've said about Justin Herbert and their inability to be able to win games and be viable come January, I think is the right term. Mm-hmm. They were dogs. They fought. They were strong. They won the point of attack. Granted, it was against the Raiders.
There was a lot of fighting.
A lot of fighting after the game
and during the game.
And during the game. But what they was a physical. And that was something that they weren't last year. Joe Alt gave up 0 pressures in his first game against Max Crosby. That's incredible. So shout out to rookie Joe Alt there. Obviously, Rashawn Slater stayed healthy for the first time in his career in the NFL. So shout out to Rashawn Slater. So we're going to go with them as the honorable mention. But we're going to go back to the game that we were just talking about. And I'm going to give the 10th slot to Matt Eberflus and that defense specifically. Since Montez Sweat got there at the trade deadline last year, they have had one of the top 7 defenses in the league. And he continues to show that game in and game out. And because of Matt Eberflus's defensive mind, he was able to win a game where his quarterback threw for 93 yards and no touchdowns. And so now, granted, Keenan Allen dropped a touchdown. He did get a 2-point conversion. They obviously scored a lot of points for a team that didn't score a touchdown offensively, but he was able to make up for it elsewhere. Number 9, not a whole game. Really, honestly, just one drive is what number 9 is, but it's the Lions' offensive line and running backs in overtime against the Rams. They completely did everything that they wanted to do and were as advertised, unlike the first 4 quarters where the Rams were really honestly as physical as they were. Mm-hmm. And so, when physicality matches physicality, that makes for excellent football. Not to sound, like a crazy, offensive lineman that's been retired. Like, you got to be a big dude to be a big football player. That's not what I'm saying here. But what I am saying is that was fun to watch. Mm-hmm. And, Jason Kelce after the game was like, I have to wait 2 hours to go to bed now from all of that adrenaline I had from watching the offensive line.
Yeah.
Like, they were excellent when it mattered. And if they can play that way the rest of the season, they're going to be hard to beat. Number 8, and this is less about the production here, but just the sheer quantity. Jaden Daniels having 16 rushing attempts. While a lot of them were evading sacks, he only took 2 sacks. Now, granted, it was for 23 yards, so they weren't great total number of yardage for sacks, but he ran the ball 16 times. I think he had 80 yards rushing. 88 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. So I mean, now granted, that's not a sustainable model. Like Dan Quinn came out after the game and said, so they're going to try to get the running backs the ball more. I don't know if that's necessarily the problem. I think you need to do more 7 protection, keep the tight end in, maybe do 2 tight end sets if you need to, keep a running back in to chip, have him understand more about what his layoff is for the running back. And if Brian Robinson Jr. or Austin Eckler have, 7-8 catches a game, I think that's a more sustainable model, because I don't think you want to take the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hands. I think he was very good with the ball. He did have a couple, few mistakes that he made here or there. He also apparently can't seem to keep his helmet on. So that cost them a touchdown. It cost them a long run as well. I mean, there's a couple things there. So we got to figure out if it's just like a head issue, if he has the wrong size helmet. I don't know what's going on there. But Jaden Daniels, 16 rushing attempts as a rookie in his first game. Pretty impressive. Mm-hmm. Number 7, guy I told Chris was not going to have a huge season this year. Sam Darnold. Got to give the man his props and flowers. Justin Jefferson only had 58 yards in the game.
Mr. Can't Throw Left.
Mr. Can't Throw Left. That's true. We've seen the passing chart. It's not great, but he what he was able to do was lead his team, granted, against the Giants, which we said were going to be a terrible team this year.
Mm-hmm.
He led him to 28 points. And, I don't think he finished that game. I think Nick Mullins might have finished that game, and I stopped watching it at that point. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Once, Daniel Jones showed me that he can't hit wide open receivers. He had the highest, Daniel Jones had the highest amount of receivers that were wide open, and he hit them on 52% of his passes.
Yikes.
That's terrible. And so that has nothing to do with Sam Darnold here. I just had to give Daniel Jones a drive-by because he's maybe worse than Deshaun Watson. Number 6, my guy that I said I hated the signing. I was not a huge fan of it, but gosh dang it, after 1 week in this season, I'm a huge fan of it now. Saquon Barkley. 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing. He had over 20 total touches in the game as well between catches and catches and rushes, and really honestly was the whole reason that we got the offense moving. And so Saquon Barkley,
but he went over your magic number though.
he went over my magic number, but if we're gonna manage it, if he can do it, at this point, I honestly think it was an organizational issue with the Giants. I don't know if it's a Saquon issue because if you also go back to Penn State, he was a fairly healthy running back at Penn State, and like I said on the previous show, he's only missed like 6 games the last 3 years total, and so it's not a huge number. I think the injury stuff is overinflated, but clearly you don't want to have too many, too many reps on him because, as Joe Sheen said, you don't want to have a $40 million quarterback handing off to a $12 million running. Oh, wait, you do, because it actually works. Number 5, a guy we slightly touched on earlier. I think he was a little bit more impressive than the other quarterback that actually won the game of the week. That was Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Richardson, I don't know if you saw this play. He stumbled on like 3rd and 6, was about to go down, and instead rocketed it down the field for the second longest air yard attempt pass since they started keeping air yards for a touchdown.
60, right?
I think it was 68,
68.
is what it ended up being. Yeah. And the only other time I've seen that is when I was playing Coastal Carolina this morning, and their quarterback threw for like 74 yards in a football game on a video game. So,
man's putting up video game numbers.
Dude, literally, he is a cheat code in the game. He, there was, I think it was the 4th down play, 4th and goal to make the game 27-29. He like faked the option, was looking for the pass off the RPO, couldn't find it, ran around the corner, and then outran the edge as a quarterback. The man is a freak. If he can be healthy, the Colts are going to be really good. He just has to figure out how to make more completions. Not every play has to be, the home run ball. He can throw some, 6 yard, 7 yard ins, cuts, curls, whatever it may be. So, number 4, TJ Watt. TJ Watt had 1 strip sack. He had 2 other ones called back. So he could have had 3 strip sack fumbles in the same game.
Would have been nice for my dynasty. Still won, but would have been great.
Would have been great. And so that makes them 40-19-1 now when TJ Watt plays over his career, which is just a crazy number. I don't believe in quarterback wins. I definitely don't believe in defensive end wins. But if there was one player, I'd be like, yeah, I believe in this. It'd be that guy. Number 3, and it's a fan favorite of the show, and we talked about it. I think we talked about it individually. Baker Mayfield may have had the best week 1 performance since Patrick Mahomes went for 6 touchdowns his second year in the league.
Agreed.
He was 24 for 27 or 24 for 30 for nearly 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he just completely took everything he wanted. At one point, he was like 14 for 16 with 3 touchdowns. He was excellent.
24 of 30 for 289, 4 touchdowns.
There you go. And so, Mike Evans has been somebody we've talked about on this show forever. John disagrees with me that he's a top 10 receiver, but, he said at one point he was a top 10 receiver. I'm like, he literally has the same exact numbers that he has had his whole career. So if it was a top 10 receiver, he is a top 10 receiver. We also got into an argument about Amon-Ra versus AJ Brown. So that could be a whole different topic, a different day if we need some filler feed. But needless to say, Baker Mayfield seems to be in complete control in that offense. And I wonder what Cleveland would look like with Baker Mayfield this year if they would have, just stuck with the plan.
Wonder what
Um,
Carolina would have looked like if they would have kept Baker Mayfield.
I wonder what Carolina would look like if they took CJ Stroud, There's a lot of questions that we have with Carolina, but you can always have these questions about dysfunctional programs. Number 2 was the undrafted running back for the San Francisco 49ers on Monday night. Yeah. While apparently he knew he was playing on Friday, none of us knew he was playing until Monday night when Christian McCaffrey was, So this is the interesting thing. I don't know if you saw this. He was determined to be out with a calf injury.
Mm-hmm.
And then today it was announced that it's Achilles tendonitis. And he's doubtful for the Vikings game this weekend.
Well, even though they were coming out saying that he was expected to, like, he even came out and said, or they came out and said, I don't remember the exact angle, but someone, whether it be him or the organization itself, said that he was expected to take normal reps during this first game and then came out and didn't play at all.
Yep. And then it was also a group decision that he didn't play on Monday Night Football, which, to be fair, the show didn't think that they needed him against the Jets. I actually think the Jets are highly overrated at this point. I think that defense is a bottom 16 defense that's been playing a fourth place schedule, and gotten the benefit of playing bad conference play. But that's a different conversation for a different day. All right, actually, it's later in the show. I'm kidding. But number 1, but Jordan Mason. Back to Jordan Mason. 28 carries, 146 yards, and a touchdown. He was electric all game. And to learn, even if it was Friday, on a short time frame that you're going to be starting, your first NFL game, to put up almost $150, now currently lead the league in rushing yards, that's incredible. Also speaks to the fact that nobody can run the ball the same way that the 49ers do. So, but number 1.
Hold on real quick. Did you see his quote?
What? Oh, about when he was in a start?
No, what he said after the game.
What did he say?
Like in regards to what he's, I don't like verbatim, like I don't know like exact verbatim, but like basically he's like, I don't know how Christian does this every game. Like it was easy, but I don't know how he does this every game.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know how Christian do this every game, man. It's so much that it goes into it, and he's right. And he didn't deal with Christian's like pass catching duties, because that's clearly something different. They ran a vanilla ass offense against the Jets, and the Jets look bad. But we'll get to that later. But I got to give some credit to a team that I said would go 1-16 this year. And I hate doing this because I hate Dennis Allen, but the Saints, albeit against the woe-begotten Panthers, put up a 47 burger on the Panthers. And Alvin Kamara looked good. Derek Carr had 3 touchdowns. They had a solid performance. And so they get to earn this week's number 1 spot on Chandler's charts. And, as much as I hate doing it, I was a huge Derek Carr fan when he was with the Raiders. And, I've quickly turned heel on him.
Yeah, you definitely just love to hate on him now.
I just love to hate on the man.
Eric's going to have a lot to say about that game.
He's going to have so much to say. He loves Derek Carr so much. It's crazy. But I think we were wrong. I think it's going to be, the Bake Show is going to be the winner of the NFC South now. We can't go back and change our picks.
Well, I mean, if they both play like this, like that game should be a good ass game, and I'll be excited for it.
Yeah. And the Saints will clearly be better than what I gave them credit for, because they already won one more game than I thought they would.
And they play week 4. So,
well, there we go. So awesome. Well, that's my charts. So we'll see what charts Eric gives me next week. We'll give him the opportunity to pick that. I gave him the opportunity to pick one of our later games today. Because on the notes, I don't know if you saw, I had 2 of them listed. I was like, whichever one we want to do. I went ahead and did executive decision, gave him that option to pick one. And so we'll get to that game later. We'll see what he lets me do then. But when we get back from this break that we're about to take, we're going to recap the picks that we had from last week, as well as a high level overview of the other games we haven't covered. So let's go pay some bills, though, and we'll be right back. What up, guys, and welcome back in. Thanks for being here with us after our break here. Real quick, we want to make sure that we touch on some topics that we obviously picked 6 games last week. We'll pick 6 games this week. It's always going to be the 4 basically standalone games per week: the Thursday night game, the Sunday night game, the Monday night game, and then the two of the games basically, or 2 or 3 of the games that are either our fan games or the best games of the week. And so for example, this week we'll be talking about 6 games. Last week we talked about 6 games. So the games that we didn't talk about: Bills and Cardinals. Bills won 34-28. Patriots Bengals. We did talk about that one slightly here. The Patriots did upset the Bengals 16-10. Giants got blown out at home against the Vikings 28-6. Bears beat the Titans 24-17. Saints destroyed the Panthers 47-10. Steelers and Falcons were 18-10. Dolphins Jaguars 2017. Dolphins coming out on top after scoring 17 consecutive points after Travis Etienne fumbled going in to try to put them up by 21. The Texans Colts, I don't think that was one of the games we picked last week. It was one of the better games of the week. TJ Stroud converted a fourth and 1, I believe, after stumbling and falling to the ground and throwing the ball from his knees. We already talked about Anthony Richardson having an amazing, passing day, even though he had a terrible efficiency rating.
It's not better than CJ Stroud.
I think it was better personally
because he won.
I don't care
whose team won. What's your rule about the winning teams again? Do we need to have Chris come at you for that?
Listen,
he'll have a heyday if he hears that.
You're right.
So Chris, if you're listening, like you should be.
But again, I said no. Listen, hold on. The Texans had a great game and they were the better team. Anthony Richardson had an excellent performance. And in a team sport, individuals can have excellent performances, but be lesser as a team.
I mean, CJ Stroud was better though.
I'm not over here like, Texans had a great game, but God damn it, give it up for those Colts. They just had an excellent season or an excellent game 1. They should have won that game. That was theirs to win. They played so much better. No, they didn't. They lost. And so the Texans played a better game. Anthony Richardson was an excellent quarterback, and if he'd been more efficient, they would have won too. So, Chargers, like we said, dominated the Raiders 22-10. Commanders unfortunately lost to the Bucks 37-20. And then the rest of the games are ones that we talked about. So let's jump into those. Last Thursday, we didn't get a chance to really talk about the Chiefs-Ravens game. Chiefs clearly, not clearly, I guess, but I mean, it's obvious now that we talk about it a week later, won that game 27-20. And I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I don't know if it was necessarily that close. It was kind of like the AFC Championship game where there was moments, but it seemed like the Chiefs were always in control. The only point that they weren't is when Patrick got basically the only pressure that he got all night, and then he threw that pick directly to Roquan Smith, which was trying to go across the middle, I think, to Justin Watson. And so, I actually took 7 pages of notes for play-by-play. And then I also after doing that, remembered that, apps do that for you. So I really didn't need to do that. But it was an interesting assignment for me because I wanted to try to dig deeper into it, try to figure out what the problem was. And it kind of seemed like it was Lamar.
No, it was 100%. Well, Lamar and then Harbaugh's time management skills.
Yeah,
which I know you're the one that I think we talked about it with each other, but you were the one that mentioned that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up because that is one of the things that I can quickly jump to here.
2 timeouts. The second timeout I think was taken with 8 and some change left in the quarter. So literally, you're not even halfway through the third quarter, and they used 2 of their timeouts.
Right. Let me see here. So this is the first quarter. This was the second quarter. This is not very great TV. I'm sorry. Um, let's see. So that was a three now. Timeout Baltimore right here. It was on Kansas City's first possession of the half. Sorry, second possession of the half. So Kansas City had gone down, scored a touchdown to make it 20-10. Then this was the sequence that the Ravens had. They had a pass to Flowers on a screen that was incomplete. They ran one of their only play actions of the night. Jackson to Flowers again on a screen. This one was complete for a loss of 2 yards. Then Justice Hill saved them on a 16-yard run, 16-yard catch from Jackson, where he ran for about 12 yards himself. Then Andrews, he got a first down 2. Henry up the middle for a loss of 2. Pass breakup by the defensive back Connor was on the next play, 2nd and 12 to Likely. Jackson to Flowers, pass breakup by not Justin Watson, their other Watson, the defensive guy. And then Baltimore punted to the Kansas City 10. On that drive, they didn't call it that next drive. Pacheco ran for 5 yards. Pacheco ran for 2 yards. Kelsey got a catch for 9 yards for a first down. And then they called a timeout on 1st and 10 from, what is that? The 26-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a lot of plays, and with Xavier Worthy playing the way that he did, there's a lot of speed on the field. I get it. What you do at that point is you call into Roquan and you say, whether it's Roquan or whatever it is. Now, it turns out it was issues with getting the defensive play into the huddle, apparently, is why they called those timeouts.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's more on the defensive coordinator than Harbaugh per se. But there's no plays that are going to get you 74 yards. And at that point, there was also no play that I think that they could run that was going to keep them out of that game. The reason that drive ended, by the way, was because Samaje Perine dropped a wide open pass.
I remember that.
It wasn't because the Chiefs were not moving the ball. They got another first down after that drive. They got another first down after that with Carson Steele. They got with Mahomes to Perine for a 10-yard cross screen. Then Steele ran for 5. Mahomes was pressured and threw the ball away. And then Perine dropped the pass. That's why that drive ended. Baltimore couldn't do anything. The reason the Chiefs didn't score 50 was because, 1, they didn't want to. And 2, they kept beating themselves. They had 4 more drops in this game. Again, they're one of the league leaders in drops after 1 week with this, revamped core. Now, Xavier Worthy was excellent. Xavier Worthy looks to be another. Somebody else said this on one of these shows. He looks very Deshaun Jackson-esque. And it absolutely was Lamar. That was the problem. And I don't care if they lost by that. Listen here. They scored that touchdown. They were going to go for 2. I don't think they get the 2-point conversion.
See, I disagreed. I think they would have.
Where?
Derrick Henry.
Really? Because he was 13 carries for 43 yards.
There's a couple things that they could have done, but I still trust him in a late game scenario to get that done.
They weren't giving him the ball.
I don't disagree. Like, they weren't giving him the ball, but then maybe you run, like you said, they ran one play action. Maybe you run another play action and just have Lamar boot out and have Mark Andrews fly out and do a lead block.
Maybe. Or maybe that you try to do that and
or maybe run Derrick Henry like in a what were they running, like out of a pistol set? Don't run him out of a fucking pistol set.
Yeah, I mean, Derrick Henry does benefit from you doing, the single back stuff. That way it can be either inside zone or outside zone.
Yeah, I was just say, like, run an inside zone for him, because I don't know if they actually even did the entire game.
Well, they were basically exclusively running, I think, inside zones for at one point.
But just not from the right formation, though.
Not from the right formation, and he's an outside zone runner. The way that he benefits is getting that speed to go from that lateral speed left to right that that he ends up getting going uphill. But the problem is, if you don't get him the speed first, he can't run uphill. There's only so much power you can have. The Eagles showed that this week with tush pushes failing, that you can have without the power from behind. And so, Lamar's going to be fine. They're going to win games. He's going to be, another 800, 900 yard rusher this year. But, at one point in time during that game, until I think late in the fourth quarter, his average depth of target was like 2 yards or less.
Correct.
And at halftime, it was less than a yard.
Yep.
And so, they weren't trusting him to throw the ball downfield. I don't know if they thought, hey, we have speedy guys too. We can get people on the edge. But guess what? You couldn't. And at what point in time do you stop that plan? Because they clearly don't know that. And then, Harbaugh came out yesterday or today and was like, our plan isn't to intentionally not run Derrick Henry 20 plus times a game. They want to run him 13, 14 times a game. And I'm like, he's one of those backs that gets better when you run the ball more.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just making a lot of weird decisions with the plays. And J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards looked amazing for the Chargers. 172 rushing yards combined for the two of them.
Those are two. That was another guy we were wrong about.
Correct.
J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, J.K. He was pretty good. See what I did there? Little pun. There's a couple puns in this whole little list here. But yeah, 172 yards from their old running backs that are making less than Derrick Henry's making for this year. Seems like an oversight. Just saying. So, let's see here. The next game, Eagles Packers, right? That was on Friday night. Eagles, terrible start. And I appreciate you stopping to watch the game at that point because we started to get immediately better. And then at one point, I think you turned it back on in the third quarter. We got immediately worse, and then you turned it back off. We got immediately better.
Correct.
So you got to stop watching the Eagles games here. But Jalen Hurts throws a pick on the first drive from his own 5. Then he fumbles on a bad snap. Granted, that was a Cam Jurgens problem. 3 turnovers overall. Should have had 5 total turnovers. You can be iffy on the 5th one. The 5th one is the pick that he should have thrown down when he threw the screen route to Jahan Dotson, and then ended up throwing it when in the end zone to AJ when he was trying to go for AJ Brown. Jair Alexander picked it off and then dumbly brought it out. Mm-hmm. If you remember that, he took it out to like the 14 or 15. I'm like, oh, you would have gotten an extra 5 yards if you just sat there. But are the Eagles okay?
I think they'll be okay. It's game 1.
So my only problem is at the end of last year, Jalen started turning the ball over at an astronomical rate. Today, right now where we sit, he leads the league in turnovers.
I would say it is a slight alarm, but we're not DEFCON 5 right now. If this persists through 3 weeks, then yes, maybe alert DEFCON 5.
So one thing I did notice, and I was mad about it. If you remember before halftime, I was mad. We weren't using pre-snap motion. And I was like, that's the whole reason we brought Kellen Moore in, was to use pre-snap motion. And then like as the second quarter started to roll around, and then in the second half, we started using a lot more pre-snap motion. Saquon's touchdown catch was off a pre-snap motion. They motioned, I think it was Devontae from right to left, brought A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to the left side. They both ran post routes off of it, and then he ran a wheel route out of the B gap, and then he caught the pass, right on the edge there. It was a great pass. And so I don't know if they're okay. What I will say is that we had 3 turnovers. While we did turn them over as well, it was not nearly. Our defense played better than the 29 points we gave up.
Yeah.
And Zach Bond was excellent. The defense was good. I do feel better about the defense right now, especially when, with all of the knowledge that we have with Vic Fangio's system, it takes time. And I even said that when we were talking about it before. I think that was a situation that we could, potentially give up a lot of points early in the season. And these games are critical early because they're all for, this could be a situation that we're fighting for divisional seeding. And this week as well with the Falcons, divisional seeding potentially. Now both teams seem to be, kind of out. But I agree. I want to agree with you that we shouldn't panic.
Tread with caution.
It's hard to not do it when I see when I see basically the same Jalen that we saw before, and the fact that the tush push isn't going to be as effective, it seems, this year, and our center is absolutely fucking brutal. Number one, that was a good weight. That was a good weight. I feel good about that.
It only
Fuck
took
you,
you.
Cam Jurgens. Fuck you. That was four. Um,
So we made up for our hour and 15 minutes of lost time of dropping the F bomb.
There we go. Bing, bing, bing. There it is. And honestly, I have moved past F. Jonathan Gannon, and now it is completely on Cam Jurgens. So unless he's better this week, Jonathan Gannon, you're off the hook forever. But I think part of what we do need to discuss really is the other part of this. And I need to know, do you think what happened to Jordan Love, and specifically from Jalen Carter's point of view, was a dirty play? Let's start there.
Uh, I don't think so. I
Okay.
don't think it was. I don't think it was intended. I don't think, other than if you even want to call like what happened in Bounty Gate, but like I feel like if that were to be more of a thing, like not to say that there aren't people that aren't going to try to get a leg up, like hey, if you know, make sure we like hit them this way, but I don't think players want to go out there and intentionally hurt other players to win a singular game.
No.
Maybe, and this is like a big stretch. Like if it's a Super Bowl, maybe.
The thing is,
But like I feel like most players want to win with integrity and win the right way, not like
yeah.
go out there and intentionally try to just
The other part of it is
contort someone's piece, like body part.
yeah, the other part of it is that it was a football move.
Yeah.
He grabbed below his knee, like at his shin, and he grabbed his butt and he tried to bring him down. And it might have been worse had he not looked to figure out how to bring him down first. Like he could have just bowled over him and it might have actually torn Jordan Love's ACL. Instead, he's just dealing with an MCL sprain. And so my question to you about the Packers as a whole, not necessarily that situation, and this is a little bit of a pun here, but are the Packers actually shipped and delivered to miss the playoffs after losing this one to the Eagles?
Yeah, I think it is because like especially like with us talking whether or not Jordan Love is, for real or faux pas, as you said.
Fugazi is what I said.
Fugazi, sorry, Fugazi, but
not faux pas. This is not fashion.
Um,
Okay.
Fugazi.
He's fake as hell.
I still think he's better than what they have available to them.
Well, sure, he's better than Malik Willis and Sean Clifford. You're right.
So I just, unless we have like a Matt Flynn situation happen for them again, I don't foresee that happening.
I mean, the show knows I'm a huge Malik Willis fan. And so, maybe he's going to do something, but he didn't really look great. And he also got there like 20 days ago.
So, and for those of you that don't know, go research Matt Flynn for the Green Bay Packers. This is one of the wildest things I think to ever happen in football.
Don't go watch Matt Flynn. It's also not even top 50 wildest things. You are so exaggeratory, sir. This is just because this is maybe I'm the crazy one podcast. Doesn't mean you got to put a crazy thought out there that people are going to be like, what the hell did he just say?
What did he ball out for? 6 touchdowns in a game?
One time. And then he lost his job to a rookie Russell Wilson after signing a $50 million contract. Okay.
I know, but that season or however many games he played that season was just wild in itself.
I mean, Aaron Rodgers,
I didn't say it was the wildest thing. I said one of.
Yeah, it's just again another reason why Aaron Rodgers is not one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time, John. So,
yeah.
But let's move on to another team that we have questions about their quarterback, and that's actually your team. At least I have questions about them. So I don't remember the exact numbers, but your team. Yeah, you, buddy. I believe he was 26 for 42 for like 140 yards. I know you have those stats more ahead of you.
It wasn't great. I know
2 picks.
We talked about in person how I was texting you, I think either during the game or sometime after, where I even stated, I was like, like obviously, like I said, like our running game definitely is lacking when, having Javonte Williams, him
Hmm.
being as good as he has been.
Also, Jaleel McLaughlin
Yeah, McLaughlin
over
just
5 yards a carry for the game, man, and
yeah.
just not utilized enough.
Yep.
Is
Uh
Sean wanted to show off his quarterback?
yep. Um well, McLaughlin only had 2.7 yards a carry that game.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. He had 10 carries. He had the most carries. Bo was 5 of 35 for 7 yards.
Okay. And what was
Um
Javante?
8 for 23.
So
So not
also
great.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Estime was 2 of 14.
Okay. So
So
also
yeah,
not
running
great.
game. Obviously, told you like during the game or after the game that it was non-existent. But
Hmm.
part of that is you can't expect your quarterback to throw 42 times
You shouldn't at least not
because
like not
I'm
as a
I'm I'm
rookie in his first game.
I'm pretty sure he threw more than all of the rookie quarterbacks by a fair margin.
We can double check that real quick. I have some other stats for you, and I know I've clearly sent them to you, but I think this is pretty telling about where Bo Nix is in like his sequencing and projection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I have his passing chart here. Behind the line of scrimmage, he was perfect, 9 for 9, baby. He was great there. Within 10 yards of the line, he was 14 for 18, which is pretty good. And, a lot of times that's what you're really shooting for anyway. If you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
stay ahead of schedule, being in front of the chains, that's good. And so 14 for 18 is not terrible for there. What gets scary is that anything over 10 yards, I'm talking even 11 yards, 12 yards, he was 2 for 12 with 2 interceptions. He threw no
Mm-hmm.
touchdowns. Sean Payton, what are you doing? Like, for all of the things that we hear about Sean Payton being an offensive guru and being able to scheme people open and scheme things up and take care of his quarterback, he was part of the reason, remember, that Drew Brees was able to do 5,000 yards 5 times, which, nobody until
Mm-hmm.
Mahomes does it this year has done it more than twice. There's a bunch of things there that are that I have questions about. And then I start to just really wonder, is he even that good of a coach? Because like the defense looks worse than when he got there. The
Mm-hmm.
offense is
Which we knew
not
would happen after Fangio.
right. Fangio, and then what was it? EJ Avero
Yeah.
also was there, and he was excellent. And he doesn't look excellent for the Panthers right now, so we want to kind of tuck that one away to bed. But it's one of those things that I'm like, your offense isn't very good. Honestly, it was kind of better under Fangio. Your defense is no good. Your special teams are no good. Players don't want to stay here and play for you, minus Patrick Surtain, because you're giving him $24 million a year. Like, is it time to worry?
Uh, yeah, I just feel like we have so many holes right now and we can't do anything about it.
Okay.
So I don't know how you fix it. I don't know where you start. So I think this is going to be a long process.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows how fucking long? We haven't drafted well in
A while,
at least a decade and a half.
minus Pat.
Pat, yeah.
Yeah, Judy was another one that you guys picked. He wasn't a great first round pick.
And we passed on Smith. I think he was because Smith was taken after Judy, wasn't he? Or no?
No, he wasn't taken after Judy. He was taken after Sertan. That was the same draft as Sertan. They both got paid this year, and so Judy was a second round pick. I thought that
Well, I'm
year,
talking about like the other receivers
but
in the draft.
oh no, Judy was a second round pick. Devontae was the 10th pick of the draft,
Okay. For
and
some reason,
so
I was thinking that there was someone that fell underneath him that did. Was it Jefferson?
no, because Judy was taken in the second round.
Yeah.
It would have
There,
been
there's some
It'd
receiver
be
that I
like
think
Terry
that
McLaurin is probably who it
yeah,
would have been, or somebody
maybe.
similar, like a
But
third
I felt
round
like there
guy.
was someone that was like damn good that basically like and again like looking at college like you thought that I think everyone thought that he was at least going to be a good amount better than what he's shown and hasn't been. But I thought there was, whether I'm right or wrong, I thought there was gonna there's gonna be somebody that was that ended up getting drafted after him that was better.
Yeah. So I'm not allowed to call him Stonehands Judy, as I like to call him. Oh, he was a first round pick. He was 15th. CeeDee Lamb was taken almost immediately after him.
Ah, there it
Uh,
is. Yep. Okay,
Also,
so I was
Justin
correct.
Jefferson was taken
Yep.
that year. Brandon Ayuk was taken that year.
Yep.
Let's see. T. Higgins was taken at the top of the second round. Michael Pittman Jr. was taken in the second round.
Point
Laviska
proven.
Shenault Jr. would have probably still been better for you guys. He wasn't great, but he was still better than what you got. Um, then it starts to get really, really gross. So we won't keep scrolling.
But yeah,
But yeah.
so not just one, but at least five superstar receivers that went after.
Yeah, you traded a couple picks for Russell Wilson as well. You see how that worked. It's not been great. And
We're not
so,
talking about Russell. We're talking about Judy.
yeah, I mean, it's Seahawks Broncos. You almost have to talk Russ a little bit there.
Don't get it. Don't get Eric started.
Don't get Eric started. All right. Well, we won't get him started then, but we will move on to a little bit of my failures, but also some happy news, I guess, for Dak, and also happy news for me, right? Dak Prescott got paid at 11 a.m. The game started at 1 a.m. He got a 240
1
million.
p.m.
One.
You said one. You said 1 a.m.
Oh, you're right. 1 p.m. Yeah, it didn't start. Let's play a game in the middle of the night, guys. Let's do it. No, so 1 p.m. You're right. But Dak got 240 over 4 years, $231 million guaranteed. I think it's interesting that he got 1 million more than Deshaun Watson's guaranteed deal in Cleveland that same week. And clearly the Cowboys beat the living piss out of the Browns 33-17. It wasn't even that
Wonder,
close either.
wonder who saw that coming.
Listen, listen. I don't want to hear about it, Linda. Okay? I don't want to hear about it,
And
Linda.
I'm a big Cowboys hater, and I saw that coming.
But I think it's good for the Eagles, right? So you know, the paying your quarterback $60 million isn't a sustainable way to win right now.
No.
Paying your quarterback $60 million who hasn't been to an NFC championship game isn't a sustainable way to do things right now. Going one step further, paying your quarterback who has a losing record in the playoffs is not a sustainable model to win a Super Bowl right now. So, like for the Eagles, it's excellent. But, you know, is this a good omen or a bad omen for them effectively that they're going to be paying Dak this much money now? And they did it in Cleveland, where clearly the last time somebody got this much guaranteed money, it was not a good deal.
I'm gonna err on the side of bad because I don't know if there's ever been a good scenario in which a quarterback got paid and they actually produced
Yeah.
in this fashion. Like obviously, like I'm not including Patrick's because his is over 10 years
Right.
and he's constantly like or 8 years, whatever it is. I think it's 10
Mm-hmm.
though, but is like constantly like restructuring because he has that ability to do so because he has so many like, and again that will eventually catch up, but it's worked out in terms of more longevity and what
Mm-hmm.
like the fluidity of like being able to sign
Yep.
and get more people and keep people around.
Right.
So I am definitely like and I'm sure there's probably been a quarterback that has been paid that did well, but
Josh
again,
Allen
like
right now, I think it could be lumped in that category. But like we're talking about, he's made an AFC Championship game. He's done things. Joe Burrow, same way. He's been to an AFC Championship, done
mm-hmm,
things. Lamar been to an AFC Championship game, won MVPs. You know that
right.
there are very few, but at the end of the day, it's not this same model. Like
Yeah, the
Brock
teams that
Purdy has
go
done
ahead.
more than he has.
Yeah, the teams that are winning championships aren't paying their quarterbacks huge guaranteed and large amount like large sums of money
Yeah,
because
Stafford when he went to the Lion or the Rams, sorry for interrupting you, was like
no, you're good.
$43 million a year is what they're giving him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, higher on the higher scale, but I think he was like still sixth or seventh when it came to cap hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's the last guy other than, Tom that, older quarterback in the Super Bowl wins it.
Mm-hmm.
So
And Tom never like was one that had a highest paying contract either, and that's why they were also able to win so many games because he didn't need it.
right.
Like he could have asked for it, sure, but by him, you know, doing the like, and I mean, not to like jump sports real quick, but just to make a comparison, like LeBron James, both of them market themselves very well, so they don't ever need necessarily always a max contract. Like, you know, later in LeBron's career, he was starting to get those like, you know, short super max deals rather
Mhm.
than, you know, the, you know, guaranteed 4 to 5 year deals like most players do now.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that goes and like this. I think that is a good. Granted, obviously, much less players. Obviously, you can pay basketball players more money, but the model is the same though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Basically, you
absolutely.
know, they have a good run for 2 to 3 years, but then they have to offload people because they can't afford people with that kind of contract.
Yeah,
So,
it's absolutely true. And we're going to see that, especially with CD getting 136 over 4 years. Like, I mean, they're paying two guys almost $100 million, and the cap is going to be 270-ish million next year. So two guys, that's not including Micah Parsons. That's not including the deal that they've already signed for Trayvon Diggs, the one that they were expecting to sign to Deron Bland to, right? Cooper Beebe, I know he's a brand new guy, but he was a later round pick, so he's only on a 4 year deal. So they're gonna have to re-sign him after year three as their center. That's gonna be higher, paying. If they're the tackle that they took, did they take Guyton? Is that the one that they have? Tyler
maybe
Guyton.
I think so.
But their new left tackle. If he's good, he pans out. He's going to be a $20 million guy. You're going to keep him around. You're going to try to get somebody else. Zach Martin's soon to retire. So I mean, they have some questions that they're going to have to answer that they may not have the money for. And I looked it up this weekend. The media rights deal that the NFL has runs through 2027. You know what doesn't run through 2027?
Dax
All of
deal.
the guarantee money that Dak is going to get, all of the guarantee money CD is going to get, and all of the money that we're expecting Micah Parsons to get. And so while the cap will continue to raise probably around 11 to 15%, which is the max it can raise per year, that only gets you to about 316 million, 300, roughly. Which granted, over the next 3 years is a lot. That's not that $40 million isn't going to recoup what they're going to lose by paying Dak this money when he hasn't shown the ability to do it. So,
Mm-hmm. At least when it
now
matters.
at least when it matters, right? And some of that might be Mike McCarthy too. Might be some of that scheming. Who knows? This is going to be a really telling year to see if that was like their offense is a product of what Kellen Moore was running or wasn't. And I know, granted, he wasn't there last year and they had their best season. I almost look at that year as an anomaly because nobody really expected their offense to be what it was because Kellen left and then, CD exploded at,
Mm-hmm.
astronomical rates. And so, but also with the Eagles having Kellen Moore now, seeing what their offense changes into, we're going to get a true depiction because, as I said before, Justin Herbert's not a top five, top 10 quarterback. Another guy that's not a top five, top 10 quarterback that we talked a little bit about, and I only have one question for you. It's Deshaun Watson. How many more weeks is he the quarterback for the Browns? At least a starter.
3.
You think he's gonna make it to week four or through week four? I guess.
Unless 2 of those losses are blowouts, then yes,
Okay,
I will give him 4 games.
I'll give him three. I don't trust it. I
Like
think they
three meaning like up to week 4 or
like before week four
oh,
he'll be supplanted, and I don't even think necessarily it's gonna be because he's benched. I think he's gonna have an injury, even if it's an injury
mm,
and not be the same player and they'll move and also at that point I think when they start winning games they'll just tell Deshaun to stay home and they'll basically do what the Texans did. They'll pay him to not be on their team because it's cheaper to do that than to cut him. So all right, so let's move down to Sunday night now, where the Lambs, the Lions and the Rams matched up in the Motor City. That game I thought was the best game by far. It was 26-20 in overtime.
mm-hmm,
And granted, the Rams didn't get an opportunity to have the ball because he lost the coin toss. And John called this, by the way. He was like, because I was texting him during the game as a Lions fan that he is, and I was like, hey, I honestly think the Rams might be the best coach team in this game right now. And he goes, yeah, they're the best coached team. This is pretty funny. The same way that Sean McVay is a bad coach for losing the coin toss. And I was like, okay, chill out. Okay. Because here's the thing, your team wasn't down to their third string left tackle, their second string guard, their second string guard. They lost Puka Nacua in the middle of the game for potentially up to 6 weeks. I sent the video in our group chat if you didn't see that recently. It's a 4 to 6 week injury typically
Oof.
for what he got. And then it's also you're expected to see dip in production for additional 3 weeks, and it's a high risk re-injury. So really, maybe just keep him out through week 10. But and I think Josh Whittingham's going to be fine. Tyler Johnson looked really good for them as well. The Rams did, and so like when I am saying names that have been in the NFL, not on good, like not been good for other teams that were making playoffs, making playoff pushes, needed receivers like Tyler Johnson last year with the Bucks, and other guys like Josh Whittingham who are rookies and they just signed Dylan McMahon from the Eagles practice squad to fill a hole on their line because they don't have it. Colby Parkinson, you know who that is? I don't know who that is.
No clue.
But they signed him for $7 million a year to be Tyler Higbee's backup and to start the season because Tyler Higbee was coming back from ACL injury. Like they have built this team really well.
Yo,
And
sign me up for
well
that.
coached.
Can I be the backup to the backup and never fucking touch the field for 7 mil?
That was 5. Gosh dang it. But Colby Parkinson was touching the field. That's what I'm saying. He's the starter now. I don't know what you mean the backup to the backup.
I mean, shit, I'll go out on the field for three plays a game,
Well, I mean, he had 7 catches in this game. So
7 plays a game.
he played 80% of the snaps. I need you to relax. Stop coming for these players. My point is are the Lions, not the Lions, are the Rams the best
Or the
coached,
Lambs.
the Lambs, best coach team in the NFL? Because I think they are, unbiasedly.
Uh, Maybe. I mean, I would still argue the Chiefs are probably better coached.
Well, I think they have a better coach, but you see a serious drop off from their first string guys, their second string guys typically. Outside the defense, I think their defense is what it is. I think that's more scheme protect than anything. But offensively,
Right.
like we saw a dip in production last year when they had not very good receivers, when Patrick had not very good linemen, they got ran roughshod in the Super Bowl. So while I think their team machinations are pretty solid and on point, they know how to fill the holes they have. I just think the Rams are so well coached.
I mean, I don't know if I really have an argument to state otherwise, so I will probably roll with you on that because they did look really well coached, and from a lot of the sloppiness from literally all the other games, like there's like other than maybe if you even want to argue the Lions, but like
Another well
as far,
coached team too, and
yeah,
like
as far as,
right here,
as
right
the
here.
other yeah, as far as the other teams go, everything at like I would say literally like 4/5 of the league looked just sloppy.
Yeah.
Like games were just sloppy as hell.
Yep.
Easy dropped passes, easy missed throws. In Lamar's case, I didn't see Zay Flowers cutting right across my face when I was looking at a receiver that was right in front of him.
Brad said I wanted to throw to Rashad Bateman and overthrew him
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, I didn't even see him. I'm like, I would have just said, yeah, I missed him. It's a
Yeah.
lot less embarrassing than saying, yeah, I didn't see him. How do you
Yeah.
not see? Granted,
Honesty there, I guess.
obviously,
But
like I'm not the quarterback on the field, but I feel like I'm going to see someone streaking across. Like I have played football. I've thrown the ball a few times. I wasn't quarterback, but I've thrown in a game before.
that's not a hard
And
one to see, especially if
and
you
and
know what your
yeah,
routes are.
exactly. And especially at this level, you're a professional. So
Right.
you're going to tell me that like how do you not see someone streaking across the back line of the end zone
I can't excuse it.
literally like directly behind the person that you're throwing it to who is
Yeah.
covered
So I can't
and
excuse
saying,
it.
oh yeah, I was expecting him to keep going, but he stopped.
Yeah. You know what a really good time to talk about Lamar would have been there? It would have been, when we talked about the Chiefs up there,
Yeah,
just saying. But
but
you're still all the Rams and Lions thunder.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just. But I was. It was just to go off just like how ugly the other teams like look compared to like some of the others.
Right.
And so yeah, like honestly, like either of these two teams, I don't think you can go wrong with
No.
personally. Like
I
like
feel really confident about picking them as division winners
and
right
like
now after that game.
there's a reason why like I was like tempted to want to pick uh Lions coach for coach of the year, but because wow, what's his name? I can't remember.
Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell. There you go. Sorry, it's late. I was trying to remember. I was like, but the only reason I didn't was because of the season that they had last year, and even if they were like, unless they literally go 17-0, it's just it wouldn't happen.
It's
So
the same reason Andy Reid can't win coach of the
yeah,
year,
like they,
even
they
though
could
he's
go
clearly the best
they
coach.
could go 16-1, and he still probably wouldn't get it.
Yeah. So, but with they did have an up and down performance.
Yeah,
They got out muscled in the first half, and I don't think they were ready for that. I think they thought they were the most physical team in the league, and
they were
the
letting
Rams
Matt
showed
Stafford
that.
have his moment.
Yeah, but also he didn't have any time. It was quick passes, quick outs. They weren't also their line did not look good in the first half.
No,
Goff was pressured. Goff was under duress. He was throwing bad passes. As John would like to tell us, they forgot that they had a top 5 receiver in the league. I like to remind him he's not top 5. He's not even top 7. He's at 8. But here's what it is. But either way, I don't think there's anything necessarily there. I think that's something to mark. And if that's if they have up and down performances, I think they have the opportunity to get got by better teams, at least better, more talented teams, I guess is the better way to put it. Because
mm-hmm.
like I said, the Rams are probably one of the best coach teams in the league. But if they show what they did in that overtime, if that's who their identity is, they're going to be really hard to stop. I said that earlier.
Agreed.
I still agree with that. So okay, so let's move on to Monday night, where we didn't think there was any kind of real game here before the week started, after the week started, before the game started. There was a little bit of questioning with Christian McCaffrey with his Achilles tendonitis, and he's now, like I said earlier in the show, doubtful for the game against the Vikings this weekend. And so my question is just really, how far do you think the Niners can go without McCaffrey, with Purdy leading the team?
I mean, as long as I mean, obviously, like I know you have your reservations about the Jets defense, but
They're terrible.
and and Brees Hall,
He might be the biggest fantasy bust, and I don't even have him on a team. I refuse to draft him. He's not a good fantasy running back, and I also don't think he's a very efficient runner of the football. He's
but
fast and can catch the ball. That's it.
I mean, like going back to the comments that we talked about before the break when you were picking your players for your segment, and you picked Mason.
Uh-huh.
When you pick Jordan Mason, like I mean, if he can keep doing that, or even something just similar to that, I think they'll be okay. Like I don't think they're not going to be pretty wins or blowouts, but like as long as you have a semblance of a running game, I feel like it'll be easier for Brock to keep at least being able to do what he's been doing with
Sure.
McCaffrey, minus obviously the the dynamic of McCaffrey also catching out of the backfield. But with this being Jordan Mason's first start, I don't know how much he does that in practice. Maybe that's obviously something that they probably work on, depending
Mm-hmm.
on how long they think that they need to keep McCaffrey out for. And if you're going to keep winning, is there really a reason to rush him back?
Oh, there's definitely not a reason to rush him back, even if they were to lose their next 2 games. And honestly, the way last year went, I'd probably keep him out. So the next 2 games are against the Vikings, who they lost to last year, if you
Right.
remember.
But they do have the Rams after that, and you might need him for that one.
You might, but also Sean McVay struggles against Kyle Shanahan. And so,
But then you have another 2 easy games after that
correct.
with the Patriots and Cardinals.
Well, we don't know if they're easy right now anymore. The Cardinals put up 28 on the Buffalo Bills, and then the Patriots actually are undefeated right now. So maybe they're good teams. We don't know. But
Well,
but
one's a well run organization and one is not. So
Yeah, one's the Cardinals.
No, I was talking about the 49ers and the Bengals.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's fair too.
Granted,
Yeah.
I know we did question like certain things regarding like John Lynch's comments to Ayuk about playing and all of that, but like
Well,
other
also,
than that,
that
go ahead.
reporting too, apparently he was going to get traded that same day that he ended up signing the deal.
Uh-huh.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry, I got something in my eye real quick, but yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, I'm just making sure. He was gonna get traded to Pittsburgh. Like the call was being put in, and he
Hmm.
showed up to practice. They gave him 5 days from one day to say, "Hey, if you're not here by then, we're trading you. It doesn't matter what you want to do." And he showed up that fifth day, was talking to Shanahan, and Shanahan called up to the front office as they're on the phone with Pittsburgh, saying, "Hey, we're gonna do the deal." And was like, "Stop." Officials came down to the team facility. They talked to him for about 2 hours and they signed the deal right there. So they're a well-run organization. It sounds like they gave him the options. He was the one that was the problem there. He said it made it harder on them too. So I agree with you. I think they're a well-run organization. Also, I think I'm going to say something that's going to shock a lot of people. Purdy played really well this week.
Hmm.
Like he started the game out a little rough. He had some throws in the beginning of the game that like he airmailed a couple of them, like ooh, but a little of that was on the pressure because Quinnen Williams was playing outside to inside. He was doing well. Then they took Sauce Gardner off the field and he just started being, completely eaten up. Debo Samuel had a good game, but not an excellent game.
Hmm.
Jawan Jennings led the team in targets and yards. Ayuk only had like 3 catches total or 3 targets. I can't remember exactly which way that went. Jordan Mason wasn't a huge part of the game. George Kittle wasn't a big part of the game, but yet they won by 3 scores.
Hmm.
And granted, their kicker kicked 6 field goals. That is what it is, but you got to get into position for that. He was efficient. He didn't turn the ball over. He made sure they kept moving the ball down the field. So shout out to Purdy. He played well. I think they can. I think they're going to struggle this week in Minnesota because Brian Flores is still their defensive coordinator, and that
Hmm.
defense seems to be legit. Daniel Jones or not, but I
Just guard the right side of the field. Make him go
that's
left.
make him go left,
He has
coach.
no left.
He's got no left. No. Now, somebody who may not have left, or at least a left Achilles anymore, is Aaron Rodgers. We gotta talk about what this man is. I saw a meme on our break that it said like, why does Aaron Rodgers look at the camera every time something goes wrong as if he's a part of the office? And I hadn't noticed that
Breaking
until
that
I
fourth
read
wall.
that. Yeah, breaking the fourth wall. He just looks at it, he's like, oh man, like what are we doing here? And so he had 100, I think 64 yards. He was slightly efficient. Didn't he had one pick, but that pick wasn't really his fault. It was a weird play. It went off his player's hands, um, off the D-back's hands, and then popped up to Lamadou Lenore. And so I have a question for you. You picked the Jets to be granted third in your division, but to vie for a playoff spot. Do you think they're the most? I think they're the most overhyped team in the league. Do
Second.
you? You have
Se-
second in the division. My bad. So
I had him just barely above the Bills.
okay. So are the Jets the most overhyped team in the league? Because it sounds like you bought some of their Kool Aid.
Oh, no, I mean they 100% are the most overhyped team, but like I think there are like semblances to them being good. I just don't know how much chemistry is there. There seems to be a disconnect. Like there's a reason I think I had them winning 10 games or like it's not like I have them as the either second to lowest or the lowest of the wild card seeds, and I have them half a game above the Bills. So I wouldn't say I'm drinking their Kool Aid now, unless they don't get anywhere near that. Then sure, you can say that's me drinking the Kool Aid if you'd like. But like, I,
So, I mean, it is because you have them in the playoffs. I mean, and I have them missing the playoffs and not having a winning record. So
so if they have a winning record, then what?
they won't. I'm not worried about that.
Okay.
But I mean, their schedule is not going to be good. They can't beat the Patriots historically. They're not going to beat the Bills. They're not going to beat the Dolphins. They're probably going to go 1-5 in division, and they've already lost a game. So that's 6 games. That means they get
The Bills, who barely won their game against a terrible Cardinals team.
we all on this show think that they have a good offense, a bad defense. The Cardinals. That's what we said. We said all because we all like Marvin Harrison Jr. I like James Conner. I like his story. Yeah, Eric's super high on Kyler Murray. We won't get to Black Ops 6 there. But, there's a lot of things there. I think
I
that
have to use my binoculars to find him on the field.
you do. I mean, to be fair, he needs to use binoculars to find Marvin Harrison Jr. wide open on a go route that he called. I mean, I digress. But it I have concerns because Aaron Rodgers for the majority of that game wasn't good. They had two good drives with him in the game. And
Let Tyrod cook.
yeah, he looked better. Granted, I think he was also playing against backups. They were just playing prevent, but he looked better than what Aaron did. And so, yeah,
122 QBR.
there you go. Way better than Aaron's was. I'll tell you that.
He only attempted 8 passes, but
So we got 2 more topics this week. We're going to give you a bonus discussion, which is Bengals Patriots. And mainly just because of the vibes there. And we talked about the vibes previously. I have them missing the playoffs. You guys have them winning divisions. So, call that what it be. I think you actually had the Ravens, though, to be fair.
Let's fact check yourself there.
I quickly did it, okay? I pulled it back. I'm doing
and
this.
And you had the Browns winning the division, and how's that looking?
And that still can be the case.
That still seems crazier than me having them in the Bengals in second.
Maybe. But maybe I'm the crazy one. Who knows? But T. Higgins has apparently a hamstring injury. Jamar Chase had food poisoning, was limited to 6 catches on 6 targets. After the game, he was asked what the game plan was, and he responded with, "You have to ask Zach, bro." That's why he didn't get more targets. Joe Burrow threw 1 pass more than 20 yards yesterday. Or not yesterday, on Sunday, rather. And so I don't think he's very healthy. I talked about his wrist earlier in the year.
He put a glove on at one point.
He put a glove on at one point. Now after the game, he
never went out with it, I don't think, but he did put it on the sideline for a good amount of time.
And I think it was today during their press conferences, he said something about his wrist is fine. That's not the issue. He is healthy. I don't agree with that. But more so, the real quick question: Do we have more to worry about in Cincinnati, or did we just undervalue the Patriots?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I know we've given like Gerard Mayo his at least some of his flowers, maybe not all the ones he deserves, with the years prior and whatnot. But I think he, even with the players coming out post game saying we hear the talk that everyone says about us, and he got them to make plays,
to perform.
We talked in the pre-show when I was telling you about the Bengals are lucky it wasn't worse, because I wouldn't say it was super close, but they about had a turnover that didn't count because Burrow was lucky he got his knees down prior to that ball getting knocked out. And it was maybe a quarter of a second off of that ball being called a fumble, if not less.
Yeah.
And that would have been, I don't know if they just had the one, but you can't have multiple turnovers in the red zone and expect to win.
No, you can't have multiple. And really, honestly, we talked about it with the Eagles too. You can't have multiple turnovers typically and lose the battle.
Yeah, I would put those turnovers more on the because I watched a majority of the game, and I would honestly say those hits were from good coaching and good practicing and repetition rather than the Bengals making stupid mistakes. They were good hits in the right spots to knock those balls out. Granted, obviously, yes, we've stated the one didn't count, but they were making those opportunities for themselves and made the most of it, and at least got the win. It wasn't the prettiest win.
Right.
Stevenson was a workhorse and absolutely balled out. Jacoby Brissett just did enough to get his team in a position to win.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I
He
mean,
was
he's never
efficient,
been,
didn't turn the ball
yeah,
over. Was good.
yeah, well, I think like at least in his career wise, he's usually been pretty good about being like conservative with his throws and not turning the ball over.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he did what he needed to do to get the win this week. Hopefully next week he does more to be able to, because like there have been games that Jacoby Brissett in his career has absolutely balled out. There's a reason why he's still around and has been a starting QB for stints of his career. So like he
Right.
has at least the capabilities to do so. And I think, Gerard Mayo, especially this week, deserves some kudos for like getting his team prepared going against a team that I would say probably at least 98% of people thought that they were going to lose.
Oh yeah, it was the number one survivor pool pick this weekend for people who did survivor pools, and it was also subsequently the number one loss from people, a lot of people in survivor pools. So all right, so you ready to move on to our picks for this week?
Absolutely.
All right, so a quick recap. After starting out 0-1, Eric hit all five picks from Friday to Monday, unfortunately. Um, and
Looking at you, Denver.
yeah, and so we went 4-2 after getting, all of our picks right on Thursday. I went 3-2 over the weekend. You went obviously 3-2 as well. So we're gonna start with Thursday night as well this week. Dolphins versus Bills. Eric says it's going to be a close game. He wasn't sure who to take. It really depended on who was the home team. And so he went with the home team. Miami is going to win for him 27-24.
I think with week one stuff behind them, I think the Dolphins play a better game. They don't have the distractions. Give me the Dolphins.
Okay, what's your score?
Um, give me 30-17.
Wow. All right. Um, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take the Bills. So I got the Dolphins. I'm winning the division clearly, but there's some. So Tua is like 1-6 in his career against the Bills, and that means something. And while they're not the same team that they've been, while clearly Tua went 1-6, I think they're going to be better. So give me the Bills in a close game. I say 23-21. Patriots versus Seahawks. So we get to pick them again. This time it's a legitimate pick that we're giving. Uh, Eric went with the Seahawks. He said they're going to shut down that offense. They're not going to score more than 10 points. Meanwhile, he thinks Geno Smith somehow is miraculously going to get better week over week, and they're going to win 21-10. I'm going to take the upset here as well. I'm going to go Patriots 20-17.
He's going to say a team that could potentially be one of the worst offenses that scored 20 on them, and this team's only going to score 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yep. So who you got?
I'm going with a not upset. Give me the Patriots.
Oh, you're saying it's not an upset. Oh, you said that, yo, the
I said it with my
Seahawks are not
chest.
good. You did say it with your chest. What's the score
See,
going to be?
give me 2017.
Oh, same score. Got it.
Oh, is
Exact
that what
same
you
pick.
said too?
That's also what I said,
Oh,
but
my
it sounds
bad.
right. No, it's good. It's great minds think alike. You must have heard it from somewhere. Um, the next one was the one that we did for up for grabs. It was originally between Lions and Bucks and Packers and Colts. We're not picking Packers and Colts just
Correct.
because of
It's
Malik
gonna be a
Willis.
bloodbath.
That's maybe. I mean, that defense, that
I
defense is real
mean,
good. That Indy defense. That's why I got six of those guys.
that's what I'm saying. A bloodbath for the Colts.
Yeah. So, but we're gonna do Lions and Bucks. Eric took the Lions 24-15. He thought the offensive line was very incredible, is what he told me, and that he doesn't think Bake Show is gonna do quite enough. So, what do you think?
Um, well, I had both these teams doing decently well. One of them better than the other. I won't say who. You'll have to go back and listen to episode 1 if you need to remember that,
That one's in
or
two, I
watch,
think.
or sorry, episode 2. My fault. We last week's episode. There we go.
That was three.
Huh?
That was three.
Oh, but yes, last week's episode. If you want to know where my teams and lined up in terms of seating and record and all that jazz.
Yes,
Um,
that.
but yeah, give me the Lions. Go
Okay,
Cats.
what's your score?
Give me 30-23.
I'm torn because I want to pick the Lions because I want to be right. But it's real hard to quit Baker with the way that he's playing right now, how hot he
Mm-hmm.
is. And then like they have a decent offensive line.
It's 1 week. How hot is he really? If he puts it together in a string of weeks, then you can call him hot. To be fair,
Are you dissing the Bake Show?
I'm not dissing the Bake Show. I just
You're
don't have.
dissing the Bake Show. Give me Baker. Give me Baker Mayfield to walk into the Motor City and win 27-21 over Dan Campbell's Pussycats. Take that, John. That's for you, dissing the Bucks. Dissing Baker Mayfield. Thinking they're going to win 5 games this year.
You gonna go plant the flag on the line too at midfield?
He's matured. We're going to be better than that. Okay. We're just going to, quickly go 20 for 31 for 286 and 3 touchdowns this week. Okay. So, all right, let's move on to your team. This is a game I said was going to be a tie in the preseason. I don't know if it's going to be a tie anymore because the Steelers at least can score field goals. Eric took the Steelers 17-14. So he thinks they're going to get their first touchdown of the year, I think, or they're going to get 5 field goals and a safety. I'm not 100% certain there. Didn't you guys get 2 safeties in your game too and still lose?
Yeah.
I wonder how many times that's happened in NFL history. I bet not very many. We'll look that up. We'll give you that stat for next show after the Broncos go 0-2 here, losing to the Steelers 26-7. What do you got?
Give me the Steelers.
Oh, he's turning quickly on his Broncos. What's your
Well,
score,
that's just
Bodie?
because they're not playing Eric's team. I couldn't give Eric that. So
You know what? Also, TJ Watt is playing, so that's a good reason to pick him too. What do you think the score is going to be though?
give me 23-10.
23-10. Jesus Christ. We all think that offense is anemic. All right. So Sunday Night Football then is what we're going to move on to. And that's going to be Texans versus the Bears in Houston. And Eric really struggled to pick this game.
Really? You mean he didn't just want to just go give me Caleb Williams?
I think he wanted to. That's
what I expected from him.
Yeah, so his score is 28-27. That's how close he had as the score. He took the Texans, but only by 1 point. So what do you have here? I assume the Texans.
I'll consider that a win then at least. Yeah, give me the Texans.
What's your score, bud?
I will go 27-13.
All right. And then I am also taking the Texans. I think Caleb's going to play better. I like that defense. We've talked about that. I don't think he's going to play good enough. I think it's 20-19, but it's 4 field goals.
You're also going 1 point.
Yes, but it's 4 field goals. And I think the reason if I don't think that the Bears score more than 19. I think that the Texans could score more than 20. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think Caleb will get a touchdown this week. I think their offense will be just about as anemic as it was, but it will look a little bit better. It will feel a little bit better. But ultimately the home team's going to get it done. Also in the first week, I think there was 3 games that we picked across the board and we all went 3-0 in those games. So, which leads us to Monday night. It's real tough for me to pick these games with the Eagles because I have, small heart attacks every single game. Right. Eric took the Eagles by 3 scores, though, 31-10. So that gives me some hope. Aaron, what do you got?
Go Birds.
That doesn't help here.
But there's only one team that says it. Remember, that's what you told Eric last week.
There is, but like I have had to open the aperture for that a little bit more. But Go Birds means Eagles. I'll take it. What's the score?
Give me 33-13.
Okay. Eric said that Saquon will also score 3 touchdowns again this week. Just so everybody.
Does he have clear. Saquon in his dynasty?
He does have Saquon in his dynasty. How classic. Did you catch that one? Classic number. Classic. You know, classic
yeah,
Eric,
Saquon's going to get 3 touchdowns. Yeah, Bijan's going to get the 1 touchdown of the game.
So you guys have more faith in our defense than I do right now. Like I've said, I think they're going to struggle to start the season. I think Kirk is going to rebound. You can't be that bad 2 weeks in a row and be a good quarterback, is my opinion. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it's offense, the total yardage, the touchdowns, whatever it may be. So they're going to bounce back. I think we have a little bit of a regression there, but not quite as much. I think it's going to be 29-20 Eagles. And so that's our show this week, guys. Thanks for tuning in. You got to let us know in the comments here. Are we crazy? Or that's not how we do it, is it? No. But listen here. We might be geniuses or we might be crazy. You just got to let us know in the comments. We'll see you next week. Let us know how you feel. Make sure you rate, review, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.